Let me try this again with the mic actually down. I was like, hi, and then I saw I didn't have the mic down. I'm glad I could see it, because otherwise, what would I have done? I actually like that look with my tank top strap showing, so we'll keep that. All right, hi. I'm Rashonda Kay. This is Reading with Rashonda. We are reading The House Behind the Cedars by Charles Chesnutt, and we are on chapter 27. Chapter 27, An Interesting Acquaintance. A few days later, Rena looked out of the window near her desk and saw a low basket phaeton drawn by a sorrel pony, driven sharply into the clearing and drawn up beside an oak sapling. The occupant of the phaeton, a tall, handsome, well-preserved lady in middle life with sightly gray hair, alighted briskly from the phaeton, tied the pony to the sapling with a hitching strap, and advanced to the schoolhouse door. Rena wondered who the lady might be. She had a benevolent aspect, however, and came forward to the desk with a smile, not at all embarrassed by the wide-eyed inspection of the entire school. How do you do, she said, extending her hand to the teacher. I live in the neighborhood and am interested in the colored people. The colored people, like the Facebook. And she just busts up in there, just, hi, I'm a white person and I'm completely entitled to be wherever I want to be. And it does not matter that you are in the middle of school trying to teach the children. I'm in here because I am interested in the colored people. Gracious. All right, at least she was polite. How do you do, she said, extending her hand to the teacher. I live in the neighborhood and am interested in the colored people. A good many of them once belonged to me. I heard something of your school and thought I should like to make your acquaintance. It is very kind of you indeed, murmured Rena respectfully. Yes, continued the lady. Yes, indeed, it is very kind of me to be interested in the education of the colored people I used to own. Yes, continued the lady. I am not one of those who sit back and blame their former slaves because they were freed. They are free now. It is all decided and settled, and they ought to be taught enough to enable them to make good use of their freedom. Just enough to enable them, or like expansively enough? But really, my dear, you mustn't feel offended if I make a mistake. I am going to ask you something very personal. She looked suggestively at the gaping pupils. The school may take the morning recess now, announced the teacher. The pupils filed out in an orderly manner, most of them stationing themselves about the grounds in such places as would keep the teacher and the white lady in view. Very few white persons approved of the colored schools. No other white person had ever visited this one. Are you really colored? Asked the lady when the children had withdrawn. Well, how rude! I said at least she was polite when she was like, how do you do? It's nice to meet you. But how rude. Are you really black? Are you? I mean, I understand her curiosity. You can't really be black. And she's probably also wondering like, ooh, maybe you could marry my son because he is dragging his feet on Mary and Blanche. Are you really colored? What does she expect the answer to be? If Rena says, no, as a matter of fact, I'm not, I'm just pretending, what is her response going to be to that? Oh, gracious. All right. Are you really colored? Asked the lady when the children had withdrawn. A year and a half earlier, Rena would have met the question by some display of self-consciousness. Now she replied simply and directly, yes, ma'am, I am colored. The lady who had been studying her as closely as good manners would permit sighed regretfully. Well, it's a shame. No one would ever think it. If you choose to conceal it, no one would ever be the wiser. What is your name, child, and where were you brought up? You must have a romantic history. Who do you think you are? What is your name? Where did you grow up? Who are your people? You could be white if you wanted to. Nobody would ever know except for I know now, so I would call you out. What? Rena gave her name and a few facts in regard to her past. The lady was so much interested and put so many and such searching questions that Rena finally found it more difficult to suppress the fact that she had been white than she had formerly had in hiding her African origin. There was about the girl an air of real refinement that pleased the lady, the refinement not merely of a fine nature, but of contact with cultured people, a certain reserve of speech and manner quite inconsistent with Mrs. Tryon's experience of colored women. The lady was interested and slightly mystified. A generous, impulsive spirit, her son's own mother, she made minute inquiries about the school and the pupils, several of whom she knew by name. Rena stated that the 2 months term was nearing its end, and that she was training the children in various declamations and dialogues for the exhibition at the close. I shall attend it, declared the lady positively. I'm sure you are doing a good work, and it's very noble of you to undertake it when you might have a very different future. If I can serve you at any time, don't hesitate to call upon me. I live in the big white house just before you turn out of the Clinton Road to come this way. I'm only a widow, but my son George lives with me and has some influence in the neighborhood. He drove by here yesterday with the lady he is going to marry. It was she who told me about you. Was it the name, or some subtle resemblance in speech or feature that recalled Tryon's image to Rena's mind? It was not so far away, the image of loving Tryon, that any powerful witchcraft was required to call it up. His mother was a widow. Rena had thought in happier days that she might be such a kind lady as this. But the cruel Tryon who had left her, his mother would be some hard, cold, proud woman who would regard a Negro as but little better than a dog, and who would not soil her lips by addressing a colored person upon any other terms than as a servant. She knew too that Tryon did not live in Sampson County, though the exact location of his home was not clear to her. "And where are you staying, my dear?" asked the good lady. "I'm boarding at Mrs. Wayne's," answered Rena. "Mrs. Wayne's?" "Yes, they live in the old Campbell place." "Oh, yes, Aunt Nancy." "Not Mrs. anybody, Auntie so and so." "Oh, yes, Aunt Nancy. She's a good enough woman, but we don't think much of her son, Jeff. He married my Amanda after the war. She used to belong to me and ought to have known better. He abused her most shamefully and had to be threatened with the law. She left him a year or so ago and went away. I haven't seen her lately. Well, goodbye, child. I'm coming to your exhibition. If you ever pass my house, come in and see me." The good lady had talked for half an hour and had brought a ray of sunshine into the teacher's monotonous life, heretofore lighted only by the uncertain lamp of high resolve. This weird, awkward, rude, probing conversation with Tryon's mom was the only ray of sunshine Rena had had in a while. I mean, I'm not saying being a teacher is all roses and candy. I was a high school teacher and it was not all roses and candy. And this is, 21st century that I did this. But my kids were rays of sunshine, at least some of them, some of the time. Maybe not all of them all of the time, but I liked them. So she has zero rays of sunshine in her life, except for this very bizarre conversation with her ex-fiance's mom, whom she had never met before. That's curious to me. The good lady had talked for half an hour and had brought a ray of sunshine into the teacher's monotonous life, heretofore lighted only by the uncertain lamp of high resolve. She had satisfied a pardonable curiosity and had gone away without mentioning her name. Rena saw Plato untying the pony as the lady climbed into the phaeton. "Who is the lady, Plato?" asked the teacher when the visitor had driven away. "That is my old mistress, ma'am," returned Plato proudly. "Old Miss Liza." "Miss Liza who?" asked Rena. "Miss Liza Tryon. I used to belong to her. Dat is her son, my young Mass George, what drive past here yesterday with his sweetheart." And thus ends that chapter. Okay. Well, things are afoot for real now. So I'm Rashonda Cade. This was House Behind the Cedars by Charles Chesnutt. This is Reading with Rashonda. Until next time.